What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Essential Scares podcast, the only show that dares to ask the question, is it essential? I am your host, Corbin, and with me today, as always, is Bobby.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Bobby.
And Alan.
Hey, everybody, 2.0.
We have got a great show for you today. We are going to be continuing our Insidious franchise discussion with none other than Insidious Chapter 2. But before we get into it, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
I do. This will serve as your first, one and only spoiler warning for the sequel to Insidious, Insidious Chapter 2. If you do not want this movie spoiled for you, please skip to the time code provided in our show notes or description for our essential spoiler-free discussion. Little known fact that I wasn't going to bring up, but Alan decided to do this. This is the second time I'm recording the spoiler warning. We could call it Spoiler Warning Chapter 2. Alan.
Okay, Bobby. That's your best. That's your best. You can't top that spoiler warning. You've won. You've won spoiler warnings right there. So instead of starting where you would think, immediately following the events of the first movie, we don't do that. We go back in time to get an idea of what happened before to Josh as a kid, because that's referenced highly in the first movie. We then kind of have 2-3 separate storylines that unfold throughout the film, one kind of focusing on Josh and all the corruption happening to him, and then another focusing on Josh's mom and the other helpers of Elise trying to basically, figure out the mystery of what's going on. Who is this character? Who is this demon? Who is this person in real life? And those stories converge near the end to give us an ending.
Wow.
Okay.
It gives us.
So I love that you just kept that part.
Yeah, why not?
And then at the end of the movie, it is over.
The movie has Finn. Finn plays. You see, it fades to black. Finn, and that's it. That's how the movie ends. Spoiler, I guess.
No, it doesn't.
Jesus.
It goes. Boo!
Finn.
Yeah, in fact, it ends almost exactly the same as the first movie does. Okay, so I'm just gonna be upfront here.
I like this.
So this is my second time watching, or my first time, watching Insidious 2.
I think this is all of our first times, right? So
yes, I think I might have watched it right when it came out, because as I was watching it, several scenes I was like, I remember these little bits, but I had no idea what was going to happen because it was as if I had never watched it before.
See, I know I hadn't seen this movie before, but I felt like I had. Like, I know I've never seen it. It was just like, I
couldn't figure out if it was. But I just want to put it out there right away. I had a great time. I had a great time with this film. It was just... So this is our little background information. This is our second time recording the very beginning of the podcast. We had to redo it. And in Bobby's previous spoiler warning, he mentioned that this is James Wan at his most. And I really love James Wan at his most. And this movie is absolutely just pushing James Wan like all the way to the most. I love it.
Keep in mind, this is everything after my spoiler warning is uncharted territory. So we did not get that far into the second recording, but this absolutely.
Well, we did get to hear Alan's synopsis twice, also.
Yeah.
Wow. I even changed up my synopsis just like you changed up your spoiler warning.
Yes,
here,
but
buddy.
mine is funny and unique every time.
Oh.
Bang, 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 bang. Bang, 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 bang. I'm sorry. That's not fair. Alan is a very good and funny man, and we all love him. That being said, James Wan at his most. There's just so much thrown at the wall at this movie. There's just so much. And it's all, it's all just, on its face. There's no subtext. There is zero subtext in this movie at all.
Who needs it? Who needs it? When you've got text for an hour and 45 minutes, who needs it?
Just, yes, you must kill her, my son, so that you can have the soul for you. Killing others will give you the power to live forever in Patrick Wilson's body.
Look,
I love
if you were a ghost, you'd want to live in Patrick Wilson's body. Don't.
He's a handsome man.
Front.
There are many worse bodies to live in.
My body. They could haunt me.
To quote Corbin, Patrick Wilson's a character actor who's too pretty.
Yeah. I will say this movie, it charts itself maybe too closely to The Conjuring. It kind of like, it feels like it could so easily be a Conjuring movie. So many things about it, right? Like the spooky basement.
Yeah.
The way the characters act, like so much of it, like it feels kind of the same way that like Annabelle 3 did, which is the Annabelle movie with the Warrens in it. It was like an Annabelle movie, but it was like the sequel of it. And it felt a lot like that in very strange ways. And I think that in general that is a knock against this movie, not because I dislike The Conjuring, which I definitely don't, but because it muddies like the franchises a little bit. Like they're not as separate as I would like them to be.
And it is a knock against the franchise for me because I hate the Conjuring franchise of films.
I think it's at its most Conjuring when Renee is like seeing the mother figure that's in there, and she like walks downstairs and she gets to the bottom of the stairs and stuff just flies into the air. There's like a piece of furniture that just flies up. There's the kid thing that just moves, and it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, this feels very, very Conjuring in overall.
It was a very
feel.
Conjuring moment.
And then she just gets so knocked out real quick. Like, it's very in that line of movies.
There's so much more that happens in this one, like, sight unseen, right? But, like, you don't see the ghost stuff is just moving. And in the first one, like, the ghosts were a very physical presence, which kind of helped separate it. And having just invisible ghosts, it feels like a normal haunting, and that I think makes it.
Did
feel
this
more
come
like
out
Conjuring.
after The Conjuring?
It came out
the same year.
The year after the first Conjuring, which I believe was 2012.
So they're probably making the movies around the same time.
Yeah.
So
same
again,
year, 2013 for both of them.
Is it the same year?
So again, probably The Conjuring greatly influenced this movie, probably to its detriment, because again, actually seeing the ghosts makes it interesting, because The Conjuring fails heavily at being like, it could be fake. You don't know. The Warrens could be charlatans, but we like them and they're amazing people, right? This movie is very much like, this is happening.
Ghosts real and it's scary.
But they spend so much time just like doing like the what is it? The soap opera zoom in on the face and like and they don't show anything on the other side. It's like, okay. It's like a soap opera horror, which again, right? This is where Saw goes, right? It's almost like the James Wan, Leigh Whannell natural thing is like they're soap opera writers, but they write spooky soap operas. Which like
works for me. I don't know.
When I look at the movie that way, I'm less likely to be upset by it, but
Bobby's score just went up a half a point. It's just like,
by myself talking into it,
yeah. So Alan, you liked this movie as well, from what I gather. My presumption is actually that you like this movie better than the first movie.
Yes.
Why is that?
So I think with this one, when watching it, it's... So the first movie takes quite a bit of time to set itself up and try to start to be spooky. Like, not much happens the first, 25, 30 minutes. There's musings of creepy things, but it needs to take some time to ramp up into what it is. I don't think this movie really has that same kind of ramping up period. I think if there's one thing I really liked is this movie kind of took the energy at the end of the first and just kind of kept going with that. And I really like that because it's like, when you tell horror stories that are like continuous, basically, you know, it's the next day, it's the next day, it's the next day. Like, you can't realistically bring the tension down a whole lot from where it was. Like, you can do some natural kind of like, oh, there was resolution, and now we bring things down to only bring them back up. But like, you can't go down to the original tension level of Insidious. You can't do that. You have to go above that onward. And that was something that this movie struck really well for me, is it just kind of kept moving. And I like that quite a bit. Also, I don't really know what it was, but the whole like idea of Josh being like the demon the whole time, and then I don't know, I just liked it. I like that a lot.
Just watching Corbin desperately needing to jump in.
I didn't want to interrupt the point. I was like, so I'm trying to be a better co-host, guys. That is one of my favorite parts about this movie too. It reminded me of old slashers. That's what it made me think of. It made me think of, you know, older like Halloween movies, older Friday the 13th movies that were very much continuous, where you could splice those movies into one movie, and it's just one huge film where all the events are happening back to back to back. And I loved that about this. I was one of my big notes is like, this is absolutely a chapter 2. It's not really like a sequel. Mm-hmm. And I quite enjoyed that. I like that they just went for it. I mean, the first movie has that ending. It kind of, I think it needs to be that way.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of what I liked about this movie, because, you know, we mentioned it already a few times, like this movie is exaggerated in what it is. Like, it's very much like they just go for it. And it feels like that to me feels like a Friday the 13th part 3 or like a Halloween 2. It's like, well, we already know what's happening here, and this is the same day, so like, let's just go for it. And I think that really worked.
No, I actually, to this movie's strengths, I will say that is one of them. The fact that they don't, and maybe it's just the way that we're watching it right now, but like, this movie doesn't bother with you being like, this might be your first Insidious movie. They just go, This is called Insidious Chapter 2. You've watched the first one. If you haven't, what are you here for? Okay,
what business do you have here?
Yeah, what are you doing? And it goes, this happened. We're not gonna rephrase it, right? We're just gonna be. It's like how Marvel movies now, like, it's like Endgame. You're like, okay, but it's like the second movie, so you don't feel like talked down to, because it's like, this movie talks down to you in a lot of ways, but its continuity is not one of them, I would say.
In what ways does it talk down to you, Bobby?
Oh, it's like, oh man, hey, fucking the dead? Yeah, we do things to like make the dead talk. And just by the way, I use these dice, and you look for the like they just push these like little things. Oh, by the way, this guy, he was a serial killer. Oh, and you know, if you didn't catch from the subtext that like he wants to be a woman for some reason, which is like, it's the same thing with like it's like a less good
not for some reason. I think it was, the text is quite strong there.
Yes. Yes, I'm hearing you. You're correct. My anger is, it's like a even more transphobic version of Silence of the Lambs, where it's like the thing that like people online are accusing parents of trans folk of doing, being like, you're trans now, and it's like, that's just not how shit happened. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's gross, but also it also came out before any of that shit was happening, so it might have felt less gross. I don't know. There's just a lot where it's like very hold your hand with it, and like how there's no way they all would have smelt the bodies. Somebody, like, it's a room in a house. Like, again, we're all Chicago-ish natives. Everybody knows, if you talk to anybody who is of that age and in that time, could tell you that John Wayne Gacy's house smelt like death for months before they caught him. Like, years later? You're telling me years later nobody found the room full of bodies? I'm sorry.
But it's a spooky possessed room. They can keep the smell in.
Listen,
it's a supernatural smell. It's contained within that room.
It's a supernatural smell.
The ghost is containing it. Yeah, why is this tough for you, bud?
So I'll say, I'm definitely not the one. My suspension of disbelief goes, I think, the furthest out of all three of us. Right? I'm so comfortable saying that, right? And I'll definitely say, like, I never did think or ever would have thought about that. Like, that doesn't matter to me at all. I don't know.
I guess I was frustrated because of just like there's things my suspension of disbelief usually goes pretty far. I am not the Allen tier, but when it comes to stuff where they try to throw like a true crime flavor into it, that's when it pisses me off, because they're like, oh yeah,
it's barely true crime. I mean, the guy becomes like a malevolent spirit after, like, that's all that matters.
But he's the malevolent spirit of a serial killer. That's like the whole shtick.
Yeah, but malevolent spirits gotta come from somewhere. They gotta come from somewhere.
No. He's the malevolent spirit of a John Wayne Gacy, but instead of a clown, they dress up in a black wedding gown.
But, like, I think that the true crime aspect of it is so minimal, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, it was just like, this is just here to explain the ghosts. Like,
no.
It doesn't matter at all.
It's one of the three subplots. It is absolutely one of the three subplots. It's like ghosts.
Yeah, but it only exists to tell the other subplot.
It's a crime procedural. The whole part with Leigh Whannell, the other dude, and the mom, it's definitely a crime. And the guy, the medium, it's a crime procedural more than anything else. And then the other one is The Shining, but at a house. Like, these are the two main subplots of the movie. And you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong for saying that they got the crime procedural bit wrong? Fuck you, I'm right all the time.
Listen, if you want to watch a James Wan crime procedural, just watch Saw. I don't understand why we have to.
I have watched the original Saw. It's very good. And then everything else beyond
No, the crime procedurals, the later ones.
You're talking about Saw 7 or whatever? Saw 3D.
Dude, they are all very much crime, like, procedurals.
The most
the later
7
movies.
of all of them, Saw 3D.
Oh, God.
Don't.
So, Bobby, was there anything about this movie that you did like?
Absolutely. Patrick Wilson's acting, once again, he is so good as this character. I really like Patrick Wilson in this.
By
the time we're done with it, Bobby's going to really turn around on Patrick Wilson.
I think the reason I don't like Patrick Wilson is I do not like that he plays Ed Warren in a way that makes it positive, because those people were absolute charlatans in real life, and don't like it. So that's I think that's because he plays because in all honesty, he plays Ed Warren as this like stand-up nice guy, and I'm starting to recognize I don't think that's Patrick Wilson's fault. I'm starting to pick up.
Why would you ever have thought that was his fault? He's a directed actor. I mean,
because he could have.
He's told to play him that way.
He just plays it too charismatically. He's too charismatic.
What's he supposed to do? Go to James Wan and be like, okay, listen. I know this is the lead character, and I'm supposed to be a very charismatic, likable leading man. But what if? What if I'm shady? What if I was weird?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
He's a character actor that fell into a leading role.
He's too pretty. I get it. He's too pretty to be a character actor, but like, come on, right? Like the scene where he's talking with the Roll the Bones guy, and he's like, Mother told me that you use your dice, and then he like does that big grinny smile. I'm like, oh, this is like incredibly uncomfortable. And then
that was one of my favorite scenes. He has serious psycho energy.
And then you remember it's a PG-13 movie, and you get a little disappointed because that motherfucker ain't getting stabbed.
I definitely did not think it was a PG-13 movie at that moment, but I also was like, yeah, he's not gonna get stabbed either, because like.
I'm pretty sure
It's
this
just
whole
not gonna
franchise is PG-13, and
a little
is
sad.
I think a very good thing. I think it's good that it's PG-13. I've really come around on PG-13 horror the last month. So
I don't understand how.
Because I think that. Well, no, it's not about us, right? But I think that I think it's important that there is solid PG-13 horror, because I think that you're almost gatekeeping a genre behind an age limit. And by having good PG-13 horror, you're kind of allowing people to, enjoy horror at earlier ages. And I like that Insidious is the PG-13 Conjuring, which is rated R.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about this last month, for 33 Days of Horror. Check us out on Letterboxd. I reviewed Cloverfield, and Cloverfield is PG-13. And my core memory of Cloverfield is seeing it as a teenager with Alan without any adults. And that's key, I think, to growing horror fans.
I will say this.
I don't know. I appreciate Insidious for that.
I will say to that point, actually, I would say this is probably the epitome of PG-13 horror.
It's
would you say cheap. This is as good as PG-13 horror can be?
Yes, I would actually. I would argue that. Because it's not
almost
because PG-13 horror, again, this movie does absolutely rely on jump scares and the soundtrack for it to be scary for any part, except for, again, Patrick Wilson being one of the main antagonists in this movie does play to his benefit. A good actor playing the villain does work. Other than that, this movie does not have a lot going for it in actual fright. I'm going to say it doesn't have a lot going for it in plot, but if you're 14, 15 years old, this movie's going to be absolutely terrifying to you. Because it's going to be your first
I thought
exposure.
It was scarier than the first one.
I don't know about that. I don't think so. I really don't think so.
I don't know. I think that the first I don't know what it was, but that intro, the flashback sequence in the intro was that held me stronger than a lot of what the first movie does. I think it kind of just carried on from that. And I think in general the movie isn't that scary, but I think that
I think Darth Maul
it's
Goblin
at least as scary as the first one.
I think Darth Maul Goblin's pretty creepy, and I think Darth Maul Goblin is the creepiest bit of these first two movies.
I don't think so. Do you really think that he's creepy?
Yeah. Okay, again, it's an iconic jump. The Darth Maul Goblin jump scare is an iconic jump scare. Say what you will.
The jump scare is iconic, but the design of the creature is fine. It's
goblin.
C tier. It's a C tier demon. Yeah,
he's Darth Maul Goblin, and listen, him going it's the scariest thing this franchise has put out yet.
I don't know if I agree with that. I actually when Dalton is on the phone, his little phone with his brother, but it's actually in his closet. That whole sequence,
I love that scene.
That whole sequence, I think, is about I think the scariest I felt so far for this franchise, because
it felt too Conjuring to me. It felt like the scene. It felt like the clap scene from the Conjuring.
I don't think so at all.
It felt like the clap scene from the Conjuring. It just did for me.
See, for me, it was that worked in this universe because we already know that Dalton travels. We already know that this is a thing he does. We already know that that's where the demon lived. We have all this contextual information already. And then for me, what worked with that scene is the subversion of expectations. You think it's going to be the demon. Instead, it's every dead motherfucker around.
You know what?
That worked for me well.
You know why it doesn't work for me, in all honesty? This is a spoiler for the beginning of another movie. Sinister 2 does that so much better.
I've never seen Sinister 2.
Sinister 2, it's the opening of Sinister 2. There's two brothers. That's the whole thing, because Sinister's has to do with the children, and one of the brothers wakes up and all of the dead kids that Mr. Boogie picks up are just around him, being hey, come watch this with us. And it's Jesus Christ. And that it's just the opening stinger. If that would happen early on in the film, maybe, but at this point you're so used to it. And I want to say it happens shortly before or shortly after all the dead bodies are found, and just
it's before the bodies are found.
I think it's right before. It's the scene right before. So it immediately gets explained. There's just not enough room to be where are all these fucking what's going on with all these fucking corpses? It's just too neat that it doesn't necessarily it works in a vacuum, but I think within the entire context of the film, it loses itself a little bit. Would be my harsh criticism.
So Alan,
Yes.
you liked this movie. You liked
Quite
it
a
better
lot.
than the first movie.
Yep.
What would your harsh criticism be if you had one?
My harsh criticism of this film. See, that's tough because, like, I kept going back and writing notes going, like, there's a lot of times in my notes where I go, I just keep liking this movie. Why do I keep liking this movie?
You're allowed to like the movie, man.
It's not that, but it's more so, like, I try to come in with some sort of an eye of, like, understanding what this film is and trying to, like, look at it more skeptically. And I just kept being really happy with this. For me...
Welcome to my world, dude.
I feel like Renee is kind of like
Sometimes.
underutilized. She kind of just gets beat up this whole film and doesn't really like. Whereas in the first film, like her fear is kind of core to the audience. Really, like you kind of feel like you are when you're watching the first film. She is the audience stand-in character, and I don't know if this film really has a good audience stand-in character. Like I don't know that it does that very well. So it's kind of hard to like put yourself in the shoes there of the characters themselves. I don't know if that would probably be the harshest criticism I could levy, is it really fails to execute that in any way and underutilizes
The middle brother
Renee.
doesn't even exist in this
He's
movie.
just there.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as Dalton came back, nobody cared about the middle kid. Did
we ever establish if he's the middle kid? We never found out. Who's the older brother?
Dalton's absolutely the older brother.
Okay.
Yeah, Dalton feels like he has got older brother written all.
He's
all
got
over
big
him.
brother energy, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Dalton
I agree
Don't
with
know
you
what it's
100%. I agree with you 100%. Renee is so underutilized. I think she is the worst part of the movie. Like Rose Byrne is a good actress, I think, and she's used really well in the first movie, and she's used as a foil to Patrick Wilson, Josh, in a really interesting way in the first movie, and their relationship is really key. And in this movie, you kind of know from the outset that Josh is possessed, right? But they don't quite explore that enough in a realistic way. And in the first movie, they have a pretty realistic like marital relationship, which I think is some of like the best parts of the movie. Yeah, and this movie doesn't take advantage of that. And I think that is like the big area where this being an immediate sequel falters, because you know that they have that relationship, you know that they were just talking like that, and you haven't gotten quite enough yet, I think, where they wouldn't still get there. And I think that would have made it also an interesting acting exercise for Patrick Wilson, because he's supposed to be like a demon pretending to be Josh, and that's kind of like intriguing, and that can play on things. So I think that's a lost opportunity.
You
for
get
sure.
only one moment of that in this entire film where she's like, the song I made for you. Give me more of that. We're like,
exactly.
Like,
that should have been every time they talk. There
Yeah.
should have been something.
give me
every
more
time.
gaslighting. Give me more gaslighting. That's what I want to see in a movie like this. It would make more sense.
Absolutely.
Like,
And they totally miss it. They finally give it to you, and it's the last time they interact before he like literally throws a tea kettle at her, and it's like,
Okay, hold on.
so
we got to pause on that
it's
tea
over.
kettle scene. I
laughed my ass off.
hysterically laughed.
Laughed
Oh
my ass
my god!
He's always whips it in the back of her head.
She beats the living shit out of him, and then starts running away, and then he just takes a tea, and like it's bad, right? It like
No,
you're not supposed.
I disagree. It's great.
You're not supposed to laugh at that. It's a dark
Okay,
moment.
Is this intentionally funny? Is this James Wan? Is this intentionally funny?
Oh no! I did laugh intentionally.
but my God,
He's wearing a robe. It's very amusing.
him just her. Also, other sidebar: the fact that James Wan makes a cameo as the screen background for like a second. Fuck you, dude.
Yes.
Fuck
Where
off.
was he?
It's him, Leigh Whannell, and the other guy who's in this movie, and then James Wan's in the middle, and it's the other guy's MacBook background.
Oh,
And you see it for like a second before he like taps into the
James
program.
Wan with his whole ass, like he's got like the emo back flip up going on. He's got the bang
It's
to the
very
backer
good.
up.
It's very good.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like.
I know he's never not looked like that. I appreciate him for like it really wasn't a phase for James.
So
oh no, absolutely
I have a question
not.
for you guys because while I try to be critical watching these films and really pay attention and try and figure what's going on, what's happening before it actually happens, I'm a big dumb idiot, and I didn't necessarily put 1 and 2 together until much later about just how possessed Josh was. Like the whole time throughout most of the film. No, let me explain myself before you give me that face, okay? You can make fun of me, but let me at least put myself out there, okay?
We watched the last movie a week ago, Alan.
Yes, I know. My thought process, okay? Let me explain
It's not
myself.
like you had 3 years to forget what happened.
When I'm watching it, I was like, okay, so he's possessed. But my whole thing is I kept going like, okay, well, like, there's a fight, there's a control struggle here. There's something going on here, because sometimes he's there and sometimes he's not.
But he never acts like Josh, like, not one time.
Not a single second. He's always like, no. No.
Well, but my thought,
like,
I
he
kept
plays
going,
Josh such a different way. Like, what?
I just kept thinking, like, that was the influence of the demon, like, fucking his mind up, and he's kind of just going crazy and slowly taking over.
They keep playing the song from the first movie over and over again. Like, she plays that song so many times in that movie.
I really like that scene.
Oh, my goodness.
He said, I played the song for you. It was great.
So the first time you see real Josh, right, is there's like a quick like
a flash
after the piano, a flash of him angry. When they showed that scene, was that the moment when you were like, "Oh, Josh isn't there at all"?
Yeah.
When they showed that scene, I was like, "Why did it take so long to show Josh? It's so he's obviously not there. Like, show me what he's doing."
I just kept thinking I thought there was a struggle and he was still there, but not.
So my response is, "Oh, this was supposed to be a shocking moment." Oh no,
I wasn't shocked.
That's how I felt. I was like, I get it. Like,
okay.
Obviously, like, this is very funny.
Like again, even in the very beginning of this movie, they remind you, I see him in the camera. Like, that's like,
oh God, I hate that we never saw that picture. By the way, total sidebar. I hate that
because clearly it's supposed to be the ghost that's in the picture, right? Like,
I want to see it. Yeah. I know what the picture is. I want to see it. Show me the picture.
I want to say it shows up in one of the prequels, like.
God.
Well, I guess we'll find out, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, right. Yeah. Oh goodness. Okay. You know what? I'm ready to rate this bad boy. Do we have any final closing comments?
I want to get. Well, yes, I want to say other things I liked about this movie because I think it's totally fair.
Yes.
Because this movie I've been giving shit for a lot. I think that this movie does manage to, while it doesn't end in a way that makes the two subplots or all three subplots feel like they work all together, they do drive 3 subplots together where you end up asking the question the entire time, I can see how they make this work. They're not successful in it, but you see the
through line.
Yeah, you see it happening, and you just go, this is a little bit forced at the end. But like, I do think all 3 subplots kind of work together.
You didn't like your happy little heartfelt ending that you got of the family reunited together again?
It was fine.
I liked it. You know, it was nice.
It was fine. It felt and it was cool to have the one little moment where like it's like, oh cool, Josh was actually like trying to talk to Josh. Like, that was a cool little bit that actually in hindsight they made make sense. And like, I feel like that's how like the latter Saw movies are.
I actually did want to talk about that before we go on.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Like the latter Saw movies are where they just like they just throw stuff that they just in other movies make the plot threads that they forgot about work, and like that they don't need
that's
to work
a James Wan classic.
That they don't need to work on their own. Like it,
you mean connecting Saws 3 and 4 just kind of cuz out of nowhere?
Connecting Saws 3 and 4. That's
Malignant 2 is gonna change the game in every way.
Yeah, Malignant 2. There's gonna be so much there's gonna be so much sex with the tumor boy.
Malignant 2, benign. But
wow.
yeah. Dumb joke.
Jesus.
Sorry, had to go there.
It could be
terrible.
Malignant, it could be Benig. Let's hope for Benig. That is an Alec Baldwin SNL skit. It's very funny.
Yep, that's an oldie.
The only thing I wanted to hit on before we moved into scores is I really, really liked the going back to the past to figure out the future thing. I'm a sucker for weird timey-wimey stuff in general,
Alan,
and that worked a lot for me.
Would you say that you love going back to the past to play the shitty games that suck ass? That's 2 AVGN, baby. I love you.
Damn.
What is? Has Bobby been binging on YouTube this past week? I mean, what is going on here?
Only today, a little bit behind the curtain. I am very sick.
Jeez.
So Corbin, if
yes.
we were gonna rate this, how
Yeah.
would we do that? Walk me.
Well,
explain it like I'm 5.
Man, how would we rate a movie? Okay, explain like we're 5. So, we give a movie a numerical score between 0 and 5, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
And you're also allowed to get halfway between a number, which is its own thing. You'll understand
give me an
when you're
example.
8 or 9.
I'm an idiot. I need an example.
You might be able to say 2.5, 3.5, but not 2 1/4. That would just be insanity, right? But halves are okay. So, with that in mind, I'm going to, we're going to keep this going for Insidious month. I'm going to play the age-old game of top to bottom. Who has the highest score? And with that, I'm going to pass it to Alan.
Shocking. To me, this is a full point ahead. 3.5 out of 5. Pretty easy for me to go that route on this one. I just kept going. I like a lot of what I'm seeing here. They also just throw in found footage elements for the fuck of it. Just to add a little flavor to it, which if you've listened to the show before, big fan of found footage over here. Really love that. So throwing that in as a flavor accent in one of the other storylines really works, because it also kind of thematically works with the ghost hunters having cameras and stuff. So it works in what's happening in the film, and also just to add on to this to give another layer to it. But just in general, I watched this and I was I just kept going, this is such a good sequel. I just kept saying the same thing over and over again. This is such an abundantly, better movie than what we experienced. And it's not often for me that you watch, the sequel to a horror movie and it's just, above and beyond better. And for me, that's kind of what I got with this film. I liked everything about it, really. It just kept making me smile and happy. 3.5.
Nice. I love that. I love that for you so much. So I'm going to go second. I think that's clear, right? So I liked this movie a lot also. I had a blast watching it. It's just a solid ghost story, nothing too crazy, nothing super unexpected, but I really had a good time watching it. I think I liked it better than the first movie. I don't think it is better than the first movie. I think it is as good as the first movie for different reasons. And so for that, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I liked it a lot. I think it goes interesting places. I think that this is the movie where... This is the Friday the 13th Part 2. After this, the franchise... My expectation is that the franchise is just going to go insane. And I'm very excited for that. But this is the transformative entry. Yeah, this is the transformative entry. And for that, I like it. But it's missing some of the seriousness and some of the acting and the proper horror moments that the first movie had. And so for that, I'm going to balance it out. I think it's a 3 out of 5.
Corbin said a lot of correct things. Corbin said that, that he liked this movie more than he liked Insidious 1. That was one of his incorrect things. But what Corbin did say that was correct was that it is as good as Insidious 1. And that's why I'm going to give this movie a solid 2.5 out of 5.
Look at Corbin getting the game right.
It existed. It's a movie, it's got its high points. Stuff that I go, yeah, I like that. That was a half decent scene. And a lot of it was just like, yeah, it's okay. Whatever. Yeah, okay. And some of it that was outright like, I don't like this. I think this is very bad. So yeah, 2.5 out of 5. It exists with its pep or its mem as a litmus test of middle of the road movies.
What was that? What did you
just
say?
What were those words you just...
Pep or mem?
What the fuck is that?
What
pep,
is
pep.
that?
Pep, like Corbin's a pep, his wife's a mem,
Is this a phrase that have you made this up, this terminology?
I haven't made it up, but I don't know if it is a joke that is exclusively for me and my brothers to talk to my parents.
This sounds like a family joke right here.
It's very funny though. You guys have to admit.
I believe it.
It's only funny because I don't know what you're saying. It's just
I've 100% made family references in public before, and people look at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, "You don't say that?" And they're like, What words did you just use, kid? I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's funny. It's funny, and you guys know it is. People are gonna listen. We'll get listener emails. It's all good.
Got it.
So if you'd like to email us, you can find us at essentialscarespodcast@gmail.com.
Tell me I'm funny. But that's not all we do for this stupid podcast where I get made fun of for my hilarious jokes. We also discuss, as a group, whether or not Insidious Chapter 2 is essential to horror as a whole. And I think it's only fair to go back in that same descending order with Alan. Now, keep in mind, Alan, before I lead it out to you, this is spoiler-free. So if you say a single spoiler, I'm going to drive to Indiana, and I'm going to physically beat you.
You won't. You wouldn't drive 3 hours just to beat me. I'm coming to you in like a week. You could just bank it up. I know it.
I'm going to wait a week, and then I'm going to physically beat you.
Got it. Much like the first...
Wait.
What
did we rate this movie?
That is a great
How could they know? How could they know?
I did not know. Alan gave this a 3.5 out of 5. Corbin gave it a 3 out of 5. And I gave it the objectively correct score of a 2.5 out of 5. Alan.
Much like the first Insidious, while I think there are merits here that I think are interesting in terms of an essential discussion, it doesn't do enough. And those merits being, to me, this is just a very successful sequel to Insidious. Like, specifically, like when I look at this as the sequel to a franchise, it does a lot to like as a sequel should do. But on its own merits, there's not enough meat on this bone to call it essential. If there's one that I wish had more that I could call it essential, it's honestly this movie. Like, I wish there was something more unique, something more interesting about this specific film that I could go, yes, it absolutely is. But it just doesn't get there. So, no, it is not essential.
Corbin?
So, for anybody that skipped ahead, yep. In the review portion, I compared this movie lovingly to Friday the 13th Part 2. And I think that, like Friday the 13th Part 2, this movie might not be essential. But I'm predicting now, next week, I think it will be a yes. I think that this movie is on the very edge of essentiality. I think that this franchise is going to go so off the rails, it's going to be so insane that it's going to cement itself there. And I'm hoping.
Are you reserving your right to change this?
If the next two movies are as crazy as I think they're going to be, I think that this movie could be a yes, because then this movie becomes the bridge into insanity. But without having seen the sequels, I have to say that this movie on its own, no. It's less essential than the first movie is because it doesn't even have like a big meme or like hugely memorable moments. It's just a good sequel, which I think it is. So for that, I'm going to say no. But like I said last week, I think one of these 4 is a yes, and I think it's coming.
What if it just is the next one?
I'll go last.
I hope it is.
And I will say, similar to Corbin, there's a good shot we were all wrong about Insidious 1. But I will say that Insidious 2 is not the one that will be essential. I just fundamentally cannot see this movie being essential. It feels so by the numbers. Like, it's not bad enough to be bad. It's not good enough to be good. It's just there. It's just there. And like listen. What I've wished I could have spent my 90-ish minutes playing something else or doing something else. Yeah, probably. Am I fine with the time I spent? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, could I have been playing that Pokemon MOBA that just came out a year ago that I decided to try yesterday? Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty good. We'll get to it the other bit. But I watched Insidious Chapter 2 and I was fine with the time I spent. Does not make an essential movie. But there is an iconic moment in Insidious 1 that does make me go, well, if that iconic monster shows up again, maybe there's a chance. Just.
Oh, I could definitely see that.
But yeah.
Oh boy. Well, speaking of iconic monsters, yeah, what have we been up to, boys? Where can we find each other? What's going on?
You can find me at twitch.tv/theredweenie. Eat shit. I've been doing nothing.
Go off, King.
Bobby's Ella's literally passing it to Bobby, and Bobby's like, "Screw you, I hate you."
I'm taking it. As of day of recording, I come down with a illness that I am undetermined of. But the day before,
you're down with a sickness, as it were.
I'm get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Recently I did download the Pokemon MOBA, Pokemon Unite for mobile phones. It's pretty fun. I'm a Mamoswine main. It's a good time. I got to expert, which is I think the silver, in ranked, within 24 hours of playing the game. I'm pretty sure that like they're not bots, but I'm pretty sure they keep putting you with like the worst players of all time because I keep getting the top spot over and over again. And there's no way I'm that good at this game. It just cannot be possible. Other than that, I have been getting myself ready and prepared for this upcoming week of watching more Insidious movies and just, mentally preparing myself for the hell that is this month that I chose. I chose this month for us.
You did.
That is true.
You can find
Bobby, glorified James Wan hater, did pick Insidious.
I thought I could trick you guys into hating movies with me. It turns out I'm alone.
This is the exact opposite way he was expecting.
Turns out Corbin and I way more amenable to PG-13 horror than you.
But yeah, twitch.tv/theredweenie.
You can find me at a seal punter just about anywhere. I spent my whole weekend basically building Warhammer minis because the Leagues of Votan came out and I got a bunch of these boys. It was a good time, honestly. It was very, very nice just to kind of like focus down, build them up, and kind of just grind through. I never thought I would enjoy the building aspect of this hobby at all. That was the thing that kept me away for literally a year of Corbin, Bobby, and the rest of the friends over there just pestering me about it. But I love it. It's a ton of fun. Been playing some Cyberpunk as well since I had to restart again. But yeah, it's been good. Coming up to you guys next week. So I'm going to have to find some time to watch the third movie because I won't have time on the weekend because I have some other things I can do on Sunday when we end up
watch it on Friday.
That's the problem. Oh yeah, we can watch it together. It's there. There we go. There's the plan. Love that.
I didn't even come down. You can make an out of it.
We'll just bring a bottle. A bottle in Insidious Chapter 3.
I think we're all going to like Insidious Chapter 3
That's a 4 out of 5 bunch. Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Corbin, what have you been up to?
Man, you can find me at Corbangarang on Twitter or at Bolters_Bourbon on Twitter. What have I been up to? Similar to Alan, I've been building a lot of Warhammer minis. That's kind of my go-to. I'm back on Sigmar a little bit, building some Cruel Boys, which are orcs. I really love the Cruel Boys. And then I also, in the last week, have built and magnetized all of my Chaos Knights, which are big mecha, and I'm built day of release, Wednesday, they are going to hit the field for the first time against Imperial Knights, and I cannot wait to see how that goes. I'm very excited.
We need updates in
Big,
the Discord.
Meaty robot slapping meat.
Absolutely will be. Besides that, I have been watching The Walking Dead. That's right, guys. I never bring it up, but I'm a Walking Dead fan. I've seen almost every episode. I'm catching up on season 11 so that I can be there when it ends. Last week, I finished The Walking Dead: The World Beyond, which was one of the side shows. Spoiler, that show is terrible. Do not watch it. But The Walking Dead proper is possibly the best it's ever been. It's very, very good in season 11, and I mean that actually. It's very fun to watch. There's proper zombie action. The characters are there and doing more things that are more realistic than you would expect. It's a blast, and I'm really happy I'm there. Hard for me to recommend the show because there's 4 terrible seasons in between the other good stuff and this good stuff. But here we are, and it's good. But yeah, at Corbangarang.
God, when did The Walking Dead just become supernatural, but with light at the end of the tunnel? Because I swear to God, it just stops being good after season 6 for Supernatural. But I watched the other 11 seasons.
I don't think...
Right, like, this is season 11, and there was a lot of bad stuff, but it's good now.
I don't want to have the Supernatural talk right now. We're at the end of the episode. We don't need to go down this road.
But
I haven't watched Supernatural. That's my angle of it. But you can find the podcast anywhere at Essential Scares. We're active on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And in the bios for all of our socials, we have a link to our Discord where we talk every single day about movies, music, TV, and more. And we'd love it if you joined, said hi, maybe gave us a suggestion for future franchises to cover that is possibly our thing for the foreseeable future until we just decide that it's not anymore. And we would love it if you gave us some recommendations. We commit when we choose a franchise to watch the whole thing, good or bad.
Obviously.
God, Hellraiser's gonna be rough.
Hey,
it's 3 long months right there.
There's a couple of good ones in there.
Yeah, but they're all in a row at the beginning.
Don't tell them.
And we already watched one of them, so we had to start the second one. Oh, boy. But that's it for this week. If you like the show, give us a like, a rating, a subscribe, a follow, a review, whatever mix and matches the words on the platform of your choice. Give us the 5-star equivalent of that. It really helps the show out, and it makes us feel really good. Share the show with your friends and family, anybody that likes horror or thinks that they might like horror. Yeah, thank you so much for listening and or watching. Next week, surprise, we're watching Insidious Chapter 3. Thank you so much to Alan and Bobby for being on the show. I have been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
Play that breakdown, baby.